Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather round for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Where Yinz Goin podcast, proudly brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh to the furthest corners of the globe, that'll be your compass, your confidant, your companion in that as we explore the wonders of travel. Kick back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust wash over Yinz as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Dreams by Design Travel by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt on the Where Yinz Goin podcast because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shout for your guide through the highways and byways of travel, the man with a map, the voice of the steel city, Matt Trader.
How Yinz doing? Welcome to the Where Yinz Goin podcast, brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. I'm Matt. I'm your host. Joining me today are Amy and Katie. This is Amy's first time joining us, but I think everyone knows Katie by now. She's been on about 25% of the podcast episodes. So welcome to the podcast, ladies.
Thank you.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Katie. Hi, Matt. Good to be here.
So every podcast starts the same way. What is your favorite place that you have ever visited, or is there a place that you would like to visit the most? Amy, do you have something in mind?
I do. Yes. Being a Dreams by Design travel advisor, I probably should say Walt Disney World is my favorite. My husband would say, unfortunately, it is my favorite. I love to go a lot, but I want to say probably the most beautiful place I've been is Banff, Canada. And we're talking about that a little bit today. And that's where my clients are just returning from this evening. So, those are my answers.
Katie, adding to your list of favorites. And by the way, with Banff and just the Canadian Rockies, and if I had a choice to go anywhere, it would be somewhere to the mountains. And I've said on here before that Yosemite National Park is the most majestic place I've ever been, and that is top of my list. So being out in nature with the mountains and the trees and everything, that is right up my alley. So sorry now. Katie, what's your thoughts?
This question always because I've been on so many times and I'm always like, this is my favorite or this is my favorite. And so it feels like I'm kind of cheating on all of my different options and everything like that. But I've been thinking about it a lot. And my family, we've talked about this before. I love a national park. And since this kind of fits in with the theme of tonight and stuff, we visited Moab with our my husband and I's Rocky Mountaineer adventure. And Moab isn't very far away from me. I think it was 4.5 hour drive. It is absolutely stunning. And if you go during the fall and it's cool and it's nice and pleasant and it's not as crowded, and it's just so amazing and majestic to see the beautiful red rocks. And it actually took my breath away. And I come from Utah. We've got the big five here. We've got national parks that would rival any national park anywhere in the country. And they're all in our backyard. But Moab is just incredible and definitely worth a visit, and can easily be combined together with a Rocky Mountaineer trip. So
nice.
And in case you haven't guessed, Rocky Mountaineer is what we're going to talk about. And so it sounds kind of like if Sylvester Stallone had a kid that went to West Virginia University, he'd be the Rocky Mountaineer. Or if you get a WVU graduate and a Tennessee graduate, singing some Rocky Top while being a Mountaineer, that just all fits in. But there's, Amy, what you said about going on to one of these national parks in the fall or in the early spring, what's called the shoulder season of the off-peak times, that can be some of the best times to go because you get rates there a little bit less expensive. The crowds are not quite so much. And if you go towards in the winter, you get some gorgeous, gorgeous winter snowscapes and things like that. But a lot of things are not always available. Like all the things are not open all year round. So at least in the shorter season, you can still catch it when most of the things are open, and you still get the benefits of not having the crowds and a little bit less money. So that's definitely a good tip there.
I would agree with that. My husband and I took our kids to Banff in what's called the off season, where there was tons of snow on the ground. And my parents went to Banff in the summer, which is more peak season. And we all raved about our vacation. So my parents had a wonderful time sightseeing, hiking, seeing the natural wildlife that was out and about. We did not get to see a lot of wildlife out and about because there was so much snow cover, but the boys and Grant were able to ski and snow sled. And living down here in Texas, we don't get to do any of that ever. So that
I
was
wish I could be excited about snow and skiing and
yeah,
stuff like that. Ugh,
I know. So
it's
it was an
coming.
amazing vacay for those boys. I will never forget. They swam in the hot tub swimming pool area in Banff, in and out underneath a plastic divider so that they could go outside and let their hair freeze and then swim underneath and come back in and let their hair melt and then back outside to let their hair freeze and back and forth. So that's one of their great memories. But I am not a good skier. So I tend to do hot tubs and hot toddies while they go play in the snow.
That's actually a good comment there, that when you go can also be a product of what you enjoy the most and what your goals are on a trip. That, I've had some people ask me of, well, where is the best place to go? Well, it depends. It depends on a lot of things. I cannot answer that question, even if, you know, as you were saying, Amy, both you and then your parents, they want to go, you want to go, hey, let's go to the same place. If you want to do the hiking, you want to go at one time of the year. If you're more into the skiing or having your hair freeze, then that's another time of the year.
Right.
So I won't necessarily have that problem with the hair freezing. So
No
Well,
one
and I
can.
think that's sorry, Amy. I
Go
think
ahead.
that's really like what the most important thing is when you're working with a travel advisor is the fact that we can help you kind of narrow down that wide, vast expanse of destination. And then when's the best time to go? And what are the best things to see? We are the ones that do all of that research for you. And so it becomes very narrowed and then it becomes uniquely your own trip. It becomes personalized. The things that you want to do, the things that you want to see and everything like that. That's what makes us so good at what we do is that we are able to take all of those dreams and all of those wishes that you have, narrow it down, and then make this trip that you just are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I saw that, did that. And there was no stress. There was no like things that made me feel like I was overwhelmed. We take care of all those mundane and like details that you're like, oh, overwhelmed. But by the time you get on the trip, you're like, I just need a trip away from the trip. That's what we're doing. We take care of everything. So it's so great.
Right. Yeah. I would agree. Like my clients right now, they're on a father-son train vacation with Rocky Mountaineer. They're actually on their way back towards Vancouver. They left from Vancouver and made their way towards Banff and Lake Louise. They're on their way back. They did not get to do Jasper. The wildfires rerouted that train. They were going to do a circle journey, which would have taken them up into Jasper and then back down into Banff, and then from Banff back across to Vancouver. And the fires kind of ruined that for them. But what's unique to their trip is the son is in his late 40s and his father is late 70s, almost 80, with some mobility issues. And because we talked so much along the way about what kinds of assistance he might need, this has become the trip of a lifetime for him, a trip that he might not have been able to do. And so I was able, Rocky Mountaineer had mobility forms that we could send in so that we made sure that he was taken care of all the way from the hotel to the bus transportation or motor coach transportation up onto the train. And then even within the train, because they wanted gold leaf dining service and gold leaf viewing service on the train, we made sure he was right next to the lift, which is within the train, to take him down to the dining car and the restrooms. So he's had a phenomenal time, and I'm so excited for him because he is entering his 80s and has some health issues. This might be his last trip. So it's going to be a very memorable one for his son, for sure.
And not even just that, for him, that
Yes.
it's some of those memories work both ways. That I've known people who that again not the greatest health, and they've done whatever thing, memorable event in their life, and for the remaining time that they're with us, that is one of the things that is prominent in their memory, and it makes a huge impact on them and makes such a just it makes life better when you have those wonderful memories, no matter how long you're here
Exactly.
for. And
Exactly.
then you said with this on that, I've done some trips with my dad, specifically to Yosemite National Park, that, he's still in great health in his, mid 70s, but there were some of the hikes that we did. He's like, okay, I'm not going to do this again because this is very tough right now. So
Right.
it's having those, the things that you're going to carry with you the rest of your life.
Exactly. And yeah, and afterwards, I lost my mother in March, and she put together these wonderful memory photo albums that we didn't even know she had done. And they're full of all of the pictures of the vacations that they took together, that we took as a family. And when I look at that, I think, thank goodness we have those memories. And that's what I love about this job with Dreams by Design Travel, is that we're able to help families create these long-lasting memories. No matter where they go, they will have that even when their loved one leaves this earth. So that's what I'm hoping for this father and son when they
I'm
get
sure
back.
that I'm sure you guys get the question a lot that like when is the best time to take your little one here or there, or should you do this trip with your parents or grandparents that are later on? And here's the thing, you will never ever regret taking the trip, but you will always regret not taking the trip.
Totally
Because the thing
100%.
is, the memories that you build, and they're just priceless. And there's lots of studies about the fact that kids don't necessarily remember like the big Christmas and the presents under the tree, but they remember that family trip that you took.
Right.
And they remember those generational trips with their grandparents, and my parents they're getting up in their ages too, and I absolutely love it when we can sit around and talk about that one time when we were on that cruise or that one time that we did that trip together. It's just it's travel is for every age and every time in your life, and you can do it in different ways depending on how your life is, but you will never regret taking the trip.
Right. Exactly. And I will say along the way, I've gotten lots of texting from my clients that are currently traveling, and Rocky Mountaineer has been phenomenal with making sure that um, Daddy, we're going to call him Daddy because I don't want to mention his name on here, but we're making sure that Daddy was comfortable and could get up and down the stairs in the lift and could see the things he wanted to see. Um, so it's finding those travel groups that will sit and do the research and find the just right vendor, I guess you could say, because I will say I checked into some other train groups. They thought maybe they wanted to sleep on the train the whole route. And then once I sent them several pictures and videos of what those cabins might look like on some of those said trains, they were like, oh yeah, no, we're very large men and we love each other, but not that much. We need two separate beds. So I said, okay, then that vendor's probably not going to be a good match for you. So let's go look at this vendor next. And then once we got into that vendor, Rocky Mountaineer, we really started digging into silver leaf service, gold leaf service, and not just that, but the routes that were available. The circle journey would have been amazing. Being able to have totally different train routes headed out of Vancouver up to Jasper and then back from Banff to Vancouver. But Mother Nature happens, as we all know. There's a hurricane brewing just south of me right now, and so Rocky Mountaineer punted, and they did a great job. So they've been very pleased the whole way. So.
And just as a disclaimer that we are recording this in early October, even though we're airing it a bit later. So, you don't have to worry about wildfires necessarily in Banff now
Yes.
or hurricanes coming to, in the southeastern United States. So,
Right.
and one thing to hit on what Amy said quickly before we move into more information about the Rocky Mountaineer is that if there is any issue that you have mobility wise, or as Amy and I or Katie and I talked about before on the podcast about food things or whatever, let us know that these things are not always a big deal. That it might seem like a big deal to you because it's something that you're not used to dealing with when traveling, or thinking, okay, my thing is bigger, I don't want to be a burden, whatever. That it's a lot of these companies will handle this stuff all the time, so they are used to it. So something that might seem like this is going to be a burden on someone else, from your perspective, it's really not. That they're used to it and they're prepared for this. That for instance, I had a couple that are in their they got to be in their 80s now, that they wanted to do a river cruise in Europe to Normandy, but the husband had cancer, and so he had to amputate one of his legs, so he is in a wheelchair. He has mobility issues, can't do steps too well, and they were saying, oh, but it was we're kind of almost to the point that they didn't think they could go. And then I looked up that there were several Alma Waterways, Viking, that there's a few out there that they have elevators on the ships, and so they're like, oh, the mobility is like, it's not a problem. They're like, oh, okay. And so let us know about these things. It does not have to hold you back.
Right.
So,
I agree.
but something Amy had mentioned a few times already, with the Rocky Mountaineer, there are a couple different levels of service that you can get, and they have Canada routes and United States routes. So with Silverleaf, which is in both the US and Canada, you're in a lounge car that has some extra space. You get gourmet snacks. There's a small outdoor viewing area, which really it's kind of at the end of the car, that is kind of like, I call it a little small patio thing. That you can whenever you walk between cars, you get to stand on.
It's a vestibule.
Vestibule. Good.
Vestibule. There you go.
That's what it's
There's
called.
a fancy word for you.
Yep, there's your $10 word for the day.
And that's why I don't teach English, because I don't have that vocabulary. But they open the like the upper part of the doors, so you can look out, get the fresh air, feel the breeze blowing, past your face, and you get unobstructed view. So there's gonna be no glare. You can get some really great pictures there. All the meals are gonna be at your seats, and as Amy alluded to, that you do not sleep on the trains with Rocky Mountaineer. So you're going to get into different hotels and whatever your stops are, and you'll get a standard or superior room at the hotel, depending on which hotel it is. But all of the travel on train is by daylight. So you do not miss any of this gorgeous scenery because it's too dark, which is why you're going on these trains. You want to see these gorgeous places. So
Correct.
You're not going to miss any of that. And each of the cars will have up to 3 hosts to help you with the serving of the food, or to answer questions, or to help you out in whatever way you need.
Right. And what I will say is the pictures that I have gotten they look like they're out of National Geographic. So being able to be on that slower moving train, it doesn't move very quickly. It's not a fast train like in Europe. It's a slow moving train to allow walking around on the train and to allow for good photo taking and viewing. So yeah, the pictures they've sent me are unbelievable.
So when we were on the train, my geeky little self, so they do have these hosts, and typically they're, at least on our, there were 2 that were kind of waitressy, kind of like service. They would bring your meals to you. And then they have one that comes on periodically. They're not all the time, but they come on and they share like a little bit of facts about what you're seeing or what you're going to see. And they have a little like question and answer, and I ask them, how in the world do you get your windows so clean? Because these are not like, these windows are, they're just like crystal clear windows. There's no fingerprints on them. You take pictures and they're clear. And they gave me their whole recipe for their like Windex concoction. And so I would say that I use it a lot, but I don't. So my windows are not near as clear as the ones on the Rocky Mountaineer, but they are like, it's one of those like stupid little things that you take notice of, that like if they are like taking care of that small of a detail, you can't imagine the things that they're taking care of for you on the train while you travel.
And I need to get that recipe from you. And if they used a cloth or if they use a squeegee, because in my car, for my little girl sitting in her car seat and then putting her face on the window and her hands on the window and everything on that window, it's like almost opaque now with all the junk, especially over the summer with like sunscreen things and whatever. We still have like handprints there that I have to get off like on the side of the car. So
if you don't have enough goldfish crackers and snacks and fingerprints on your window to like take care of a small army during the summertime, then you're not doing parenthood right. So
Yeah.
although I think it gets up to a point whenever we pick up her car seat and have to like scoop it out with a shovel. So
Yeah.
we do that fairly regularly, so we can avoid
grandkids.
that.
I have grandkids ages 4 and 1, and so I get it. I have seen and lived the aftermath.
Now, in the U.S. only, they have Silverleaf Plus, and this is an elevated dining experience. You get to ride and dine in a regular car, and you get wine pairings, premium alcoholic beverages, signature cocktails, and then you have access to 2 lounge cars. There's no assigned seats, so you can meet your new favorite person, or if you're you meet several people and you want to hop seats and have different conversations or whatever, or meet several new best friends, you have that ability.
That's what my husband and I experienced on our Moab to Denver. Was we did the Silverleaf Plus service, and it was incredible. It was so nice to like be able to get up out of your seat and wander into the lounge cars. There were 2 of them. You kind of get used, like the way the trains are set up. There's one lounge car that's closer to you than the other one, and you get a little bit lazy, and you're like, that's the one that I want to hang out in. But they're just kind of a different change of like scenery, a little bit of a chance to kind of wander around. They have games. So our car actually had a whole family that had grandma and grandpa, and then they had 5 of their grandchildren that were 10 and under, and then their parents. And so they had like chutes and ladders and games for the kids and things like that. And then the kids were able to move in and out of those areas. And they had some of the like prettiest drinks I've ever seen. The bartender, she was on it, and she made me like a Shirley Temple that I have never seen before, that it changed colors and it was magic. And I felt like I was 7 again. It was really neat. It was great. And then they have like little snacks and stuff like that in the lounge car. So the train ride can get to be not long, but you need like, it's kind of nice to be able to get up and move. And that upgraded service is definitely worth your time and definitely worth the expenditure, just because you get a different feel. And there's always different people in that lounge car. So you get a chance to kind of meet people from all different areas and kind of hear their stories. And that's the great thing about traveling like that, is you really do. You become really close with the people that are in your seats, and like you're oohing and ahhing over the eagle that's flying over you, or the totally just stories that you share together. And so it's nice to have like a kind of a community within the train.
It's that shared experience that can make memorable experiences more memorable. Even if it's like when people are at sporting events for a big game, that you're with other people who have a shared interest, and you're going for the same thing, and you're here for the same reasons. and that you have, as you say, you form that, communal atmosphere.
Yes, I would agree. The father and son duo that's on this trip right now, they are in gold leaf service, which I know you're going to talk about in a minute, but they did enjoy, even though Big Daddy, we'll call him, has mobility issues, he was able to go downstairs to the dining car and meet people that were his age, and see people that had other mobility issues like himself, and they were able to talk and strike up friendships and help each other when they got off the train. Like when they were headed back to Vancouver, um, Big Daddy was able to advocate for a little lady who was having some issues and they weren't picking her up quite quickly enough. And so they were helping her get a golf cart to help get down to the bus she needed to be on. Or so, yeah, lots of friendships made along the way. And um, what better way over fellowship of food, right?
That's the hallmark of many cultures, is the food brings people together. So same
Exactly.
with train
Yes.
travel, right?
Uh-huh.
So speaking of that gold leaf service, that is only in Canada. So US has the silver leaf plus as its elevated experience. Canada has gold leaf. And so this one is going to be a bi-level glass dome coach that has panoramic windows. So there's your two levels, the top as the glass dome, so you can look pretty much in every direction, unencumbered. And as Katie said, there'll be crystal clear windows, so you don't have to worry about glare or any smudges, at least until I'm on there and I just can't, help myself, and I just lean forward too much and have my nose pressed against the window the entire time because I want to get closer. But that's a whole other story. Here you also get the gourmet snacks, and this one has a larger outdoor viewing area. You get meals in the lower level, as Amy was talking about. Again, there is no assigned seating. You can, again, dine with your new best friends. They have the wine pairings, the premium alcoholic beverages, and signature cocktails, easy for me to say, as well. And then whenever you are at the hotels, you can get a standard, superior, or premium room, again, depending on where you're at. And they have up to 4 hosts. So you get a little bit more one-on-one service there.
Yes, and I would say that the two that are traveling right now really benefited from the glass dome, seeing the mountains as they traveled. The 4 hosts within their car, they could not say enough. They said A plus plus on the service for that gold leaf amenity. The food, they ate twice a day, and these are two very large men. I know them well, and I know what kind of eaters they are. And I was a little concerned that maybe they wouldn't get enough food. And they came off the train not really hungry, had dinner reservations at every hotel that they went into, but actually went to those hotels and shared meals because they were so full from their meals on the train. And these are guys that like, this is a father and a son that are foodies. I mean, they like to visit the nicest restaurants wherever they're at. Houston, Dallas. They have some friends up in St. Louis and family in St. Louis. And when they're in those towns and those parts of the country, they visit the best steak restaurants and Italian restaurants. And they were very pleased with the level of food and service that they got on the Rocky Mountaineer train.
I wish I could show our listeners the pictures I have of the food that we were served on board. One of the really cool things that they do is that they source from like local ingredients. So peaches were in season when we were traveling, and so they made a really beautiful peach tart. And the chef was so cool because he was so excited about his peach tart. Like, he was so cute about it. He kept going around and going, "What do you think of my peach tart? Do you think my peach tart?" And, like, even if his peach tart would have sucked, you didn't want to tell him that because he was so excited about this peach tart. But it was like melt in your mouth, like delicious. And they had like braised short ribs, and I mean things that you would expect, just like Amy was saying, at a really high class restaurant. They have choices, so you're not stuck saying, well, that's not really my thing. They work with dietary needs. They're very, very conscious of things like lactose intolerance and gluten-free and things like that. They can handle those things on board. And everything that comes out is just stunning. Like, you're going to be one of those geeky people that before you eat, you're going to take a picture of your food and then you're going to send it to all your friends and be like, look at what I'm eating on a train. Look, it'd be like a Dr.
Yes.
Seuss. I had short ribs and a peach tart on a train. I don't know any more of the rhyme. I can't
In
do
the
it.
rain.
In the rain.
While traveling through Spain,
Yes.
while looking out my window pane. So we
There
can
you
go on for
go.
hours with this.
Yeah.
So as mentioned with that, the menu is determined by the route. So wherever you're going, they're gonna get food that is geared towards that location. Each car has its own kitchen and culinary team, and things are made fresh and it's hot food. It's not just this warm, this is not airplane food you're getting.
Right.
So this is fresh made, good food. And as Katie said, they can accommodate gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, vegetarian. Things they cannot always accommodate is kosher or halal meals. So just with the restrictions, and especially since it's a smaller kitchen just on the train, things are going to touch, and they can't always guarantee that this can be made in the pan that did not touch whatever else. So they can't get with everything, but for what they can offer, they do a fabulous job with that.
Right.
It was exceptional. And they also do things like, so at least on our trip, there's a really famous chocolate shop in Glenwood Springs. And so for our snack on the next day after we stayed the night in Glenwood, they had brownies from this chocolate shop. So you get little like tastes of the culture and the things that you are seeing and the places that you're visiting. You get a little, because it's always important to see those things, but it's kind of one of those things that when you travel, you want to experience all of it with all of your senses. And having something that is local makes it just even better, that you get to taste what everybody else in the local place is enjoying. So it was really neat.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at a menu. They sent me several pictures of their menus while on the train. And this is their lunch choices. I mean, this is lunch, because by the time it was dinner, they had arrived to the towns they were headed to. But they have
Well, before you go, Amy, just as a disclaimer, I would advise everyone to stop the podcast, go and eat. Otherwise, you're going to be really, really hungry by the time she's done reading this. Okay, you can
Yes.
resume.
I mean, they've got full bread service beforehand, and then they have a salad with grilled veggies and pumpkin seeds, and then they have a chicken dish that's made with citrus dressed greens and sun-dried tomatoes. There's a red pesto and Parmesan polenta. There's a seared albacore tuna. There's a strip loin steak, AAA grade beef, strip loin steak. I mean, just on and on. That's crazy. And that's lunch. And then their dessert, they had a chocolate torte or a lemon lavender posette. I mean, amazing. Just sounds amazing. Like cruise ship level food on a train.
And even a little bit better. Like,
Yeah.
depending on which cruise you're on, even a little bit better, a little more refined, a little bit more like one of the nicest restaurants that you can eat aboard one of the cruise ships.
Yeah. Amazing.
And Amy, after you read that menu, I think I'll have that. As in
Yeah.
all of it, One of each, please.
Yes. Absolutely.
I didn't like that one bad word you said in there, though. Or the chocolate torte.
Or.
With the, that's why you travel with a friend and you each get one and
There
then you
you
share.
go.
Or you travel with my husband that says that he doesn't believe in the word or when it comes to dessert. So they bring out two. So.
Perfect.
Katie, I like your husband better already.
I know. I got a good one.
So as was mentioned before, with the rail cars, each of them is going to have 2 to 4 hosts. And as Katie alluded to, that they'll give you a history of the place that you're traveling through. They'll tell you stories about the area. They'll answer questions. they really make this a nice, informative, and it's edutainment. It's educational entertainment. It's stuff that will, you're going to learn about what you're going through in all these new places, but it's going to be an interesting story. It's not going to be just, and in 1930, in 1837, this person built this house here. Okay, and then if you look to your right, it's an actual story. So you get a little bit of the atmosphere, you get a little bit of character to go along
Right.
with it, and so it really helps to bring the environment, bring the atmosphere and the location alive. And
Yes. Well, my client actually sent me an audio of he was well, I guess you could say recording the person that was speaking when they were headed through certain parts of the mountains. And they were also describing the structure on the side of the mountains that might be used to capture an avalanche and how they perform, what's the word I'm looking for? Controlled avalanches in in practice for a true avalanche. So they test these structures along the railway. So he found that very interesting, that not only were they describing the history of the area, but also the structures of the area and how they maintain that.
So on our trip, when we went through a little spot in Colorado that was just the rolling kind of grain and just like little farmhouses and stuff, they were like, that farmhouse. And then they gave us like the neighborhood gossip. And it was because of the fact that they're from those areas. And so they already know like the stories and the histories. And there's families that have been there for numerous years. They're old timers there. And so they have these whole histories of like, so and so made so and so mad, and then this is what happened, and this is why this happened. And so they had like, it was kind of like a little bit of a soap opera. I was all in. It was so great because you learned like so much. And they were like, and then they were like, and now the son is like one of our employees, and he's off this week, but he'll come back and he'll let us know how Grandma Sarah was handling that with neighbor Bill. And like, it's just like really cool. It was fun. And there's so much more, like there's so much more educational things and stuff like that, but you really do become very like in touch and very like excited to hear about these stories, that these experts, because they know what they are seeing and they know the areas so well. It's just great. And they give you like, they're like, okay, so now have your cameras ready because we're going to come around this bend and there is going to be the most awe-inspiring spot. And I'm a mountain girl. I have beautiful mountains outside my windows, and I've grown up in the mountains and everything like that. But actually being in the center of these beautiful mountain ranges and being on a train, a way that you cannot possibly get to those areas unless you're on a train, it was just so amazing and so cool to see. And they have those stories to tell you about what you're seeing that enhances the experience.
Yes.
that's the thing with these hosts, as Katie said, they are local. That it's not someone who's just reading from a script or memorizing, the spiel that they're going to give. That this is what you're going to get in some of the other premium, luxury travel things like Adventures by Disney, something like that. That it's a local guide, someone who is from that area, who grew up in that area, who knows the people of that area and the history of it, and here's the best little corner shop to get, corner cafe to go eat in whenever we're in this town. Hey, I go there all the time. Yeah, this is where I met my wife here, and that type of thing. That it's a more personal thing that they're able to give you, and they're able to give you that much more depth and that much more passion and emotion into it, and to really help to draw you into these stories and to make it that much more entertaining. So, and as was mentioned before, that the speed of these trains is only about 30 to 35 miles an hour, which lets you enjoy the scenery, get these good pictures. And it's not going to be that everyone's fighting over that one, okay, we have 30 seconds before we pass this, get your picture. It's okay, everyone can take their time, and, everyone gets a chance to go see it. And, you're not going to be fighting over everyone the whole time to get that one perfect shot in that little span of time. You have a little bit more, it's more of a relaxed atmosphere.
So this trip is definitely one of those things that you need to think about the train as the experience, not the transportation to get from point A to point B. It is the experience. And so you're not rushing. And in this day and age, we rush so much. We rush from spot to spot. I mean, even if you think about like some of your typical trips, you get on the plane, you can't wait to get off, and then you rush to your rental car or whatever transportation, and then you can't wait to get off that so that you can get to where you're going. And there's no time to actually stop and take it all in. And this is what this trip is about. It is not about rush. You're not taking the train to get from point A to point B. Point A and point B are amazing, but it's about the middle. Sometimes the middle is where we find like the greatest joy, right? The middle. And this is what this trip is. This is about the middle. Rocky Mountaineer has done an exceptional job of creating an experience that is all about that middle where memories can be made and you can sit back and enjoy.
And this is one of those situations where it's all about the journey, not the destination.
Exactly. Beautifully put. Yes.
And so the travel season is typically April through October. In Canada, it's going to be early October. In the US, it's going to be a little bit later in October just because of snow and weather and things like that. And so as you're listening to this, you can't take the trip now, but plan for early next year. There are fewer trains in the US in July and August. That is the off season because of the area gets a little bit too hot. So if you want a less crowded experience on this, July and August, when most people are off and doing their vacations, that's actually a really good time to take the trip. Again, you're going to be on the train in air conditioning, so you don't have to worry about it being too hot outside. And
yes. Now, something I will say is I started planning this trip for this father-son duo back in October of last year. They are on the last train right now that Rocky Mountaineer is running from, well, in Canada. So when they get back, their routes are done for the year. But leading up to it has been such a fun experience trying to plan and choose the things that these guys would do once they got to each town as well. So they, I would say in Kamloops, they probably pretty much got off the train and slept in the hotel because they left the very next day. But because they were rerouted due to the Jasper wildfire, they were able to get 2 days in Lake Louise and 2 days in Banff. So they were able to get out and do some things in those towns and have some excursions along the way. Coming back from Lake Louise down to Banff, they were on a motor coach transfer and they were able to take an excursion where they did the skywalk over a glacier, and that was included in their trip. So it's phenomenal. It's a skywalk that's a glass walkway out over a natural glacier. And then they took a big, huge truck, bus looking vehicle. The tires are as tall as these men. I'm looking at a picture of it right now. And they actually stopped and drove out on the glacier so everyone could get out and walk on the glacier. So that was an immersive experience that was included in their travel booking.
okay, I think I need to book mine for next October right now.
I know.
Well, and that's the thing is that these trips are not something that are kind of like a willy-nilly, like, hey, let's go ahead and go get on the train. I mean, we can do that. If there's space available, we can totally get you taken care of. But if you want like the supreme, like best experience possible, get with us now. Let's talk about Rocky Mountaineer now so that we can book your trip for next year so that you have something on the calendar that you can look forward to every single day. You can think, that's what I'm doing, that's where I'm going, and we can like take care of all of the little details so that you have something absolutely incredible. There's nothing wrong with a last minute trip, but there's something to be said about some like time to plan, some time to like structure your trip the way you want it, and we can do that for you.
Exactly. Right. And what I will say is, even with the natural disaster of the wildfire, Rocky Mountaineer was able to reschedule every single person. No, from everything I have read, most people rescheduled and got on a train of some sort. Not very many people canceled. So even this last train that made this route, it was full. Like they had to add cars to it. So what my clients did a lot of asking around, like what happened with all of this and the people that had their reservations. And their plan was if they did have a lot of cancellations, they would just pull cars off the train, and they didn't have to. They filled them. So that speaks to their level of customer care.
Well, then I'm going to speak to the level of customer care for you, Amy, too, then, because here's the thing. Everybody wants their trip to go 100% smooth, and we want your trips to go 100% smooth. We want everything to go off without a hitch. We want those experiences, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. And so that's why you need a travel advisor. Because here's the thing, you don't want to be another number. You don't want to be like something in a queue where like somebody that's working at a call center that could really care less about whether or not you have a great experience. If something goes wrong, they're just going to go ahead and click a button and be like, hope it works out for you. Good luck with that. That's why you want a travel advisor, because sometimes things happen. Sometimes things out of our control happen. And it's so much better for you as the client to call up and say, hey, Amy, I saw that Jasper has had this horrific wildfire. What is Rocky Mountaineer going to do for me? And then behind the scenes, Amy comes in and takes care of all of it. She takes care of everything for you.
Thank you for mentioning that. I mean, I'm not good at bragging about things like that, but yes, I did make multiple phone calls while these two gentlemen continued their days and continued working because, you know, the son is still working. His father's retired, but, you know, he wanted everything handled. And so, yeah, there were multiple phone calls making sure that the mobility forms got there, making sure that they wanted Lake Louise and Banff. They didn't just want 4 days in Banff. They really wanted to be able to make the most of their trip. And I was able to get them 2 days Lake Louise, 2 days Banff. So finding an agent who will go to bat for you and who will call for you and wait on hold for you is worth its weight in gold. So
well, and Matt knows his clients Matt knows exactly what his clients need. Matt knows exactly how your trip is scheduled. Matt knows those things about you. So if something happens, Matt can be like, these are the things that are important to my client. These are the things that I need to take care of. And I guarantee you, both Matt and Amy are the type of agents that you want. You want somebody that knows you. You do. You just want somebody that knows who you are, who, when you call my cell phone and you say, Katie, I know your voice. I already know who you are. I already know the trip that you got taken care of. If you're worried about it, I guarantee you, I've already worried about it 10 times more than you have, because that's how important you are to me.
yes.
Well, that's the other thing, that you'll know Katie's voice, but Katie's going to know your voice as well. And what Katie just said echoes what she said before of, we want you to go on these vacations where you have those no worries whatsoever. And that's because we're the ones who are like doing the worrying for you of, as Amy mentioned, there's currently, as we record, there's hurricanes and there's whatever else. And it's like, okay, we're the ones, and Katie mentioned this before even as well, that she's become, the amateur weather person, that she's knows like the exact trajectory of any hurricane that comes, through the southeast United States, and where it's going to go after that. If it starts headed north or whatever, of okay, is this going to affect your cruise? Will this affect your trip to Walt Disney World? Will this affect your train trip? Well, so whatever it is, that we're the ones who are watching out for this stuff for you. That we've been there, done that. That we know, okay, this could happen. We need to watch out for this. Okay, they're likely to handle it this way. Here's what your options are likely to be, and so that we can again make the phone calls for you. We'll do the worrying for you so you can just go out and enjoy. And as mentioned, we're the ones who are waiting on hold whenever we have to call to take care of something, and you don't need to worry about that. So we're like your designated warriors.
We are also the ones who are recommending over and over and over again travel insurance, because you cannot control some of these things in our world. And I will say, along the way, with the wildfire going on, we did have peace of mind that travel insurance had been purchased. So we had that coverage and that breath of fresh air should we have to make that decision. But luckily we didn't have to, and Rocky Mountaineer got it squared away, and they're on the train tonight. So,
And to go back to the service you get, is that we mentioned that the Rocky Mountaineer will travel by day on the train, so you can enjoy the scenery. But they will truck your luggage to the next hotel, so it gets there before you. Because again, trains are only going about 30, 35 miles an hour, so you don't need to carry your luggage on board. The luggage will be taken directly to your room. You get to skip check-in, and these are typically about 2 or 3 day trips. Now there are add-ons. We'll get to that later on, but you're not looking at, okay, I need to put aside an entire week. You can, if you want, and enjoy some of these extra places for a little bit longer in the beginning or the end of your trip, or both, or whatever. But this can be a nice little weekend getaway. It doesn't have to be a huge, huge investment of your time.
So we stayed in Glenwood Springs, and we stayed at this really beautiful little quaint boutique hotel. It was a premier hotel there, and it was so cool because we sat on we pulled into the train station. Glenwood Springs has this amazing hot spring. It's huge, it's massive, and it's so beautiful, and it's lit up at night, and the stars are twinkling. It's just so cool. And then we have this little hotel that was right across the street. So we got off the train and it was right there. But they hand you out your keys, and they're these old-time, old-fashioned kind of like skeleton keys. They hand them to you. So they say to you, Mr. and Mrs. Cowden, here is your key to your room. This is your room. There is no like having to go and talk to the front desk. There is no like, hey, I need this or I need that. And then you get up into your room and your luggage is there. It's like sitting there, like in a perfect little, like it was so perfect that I took a picture of it. My husband's like, why are we taking a picture of our luggage that we own? And I'm like, but look at how cute they put it just perfect in the room and it looks so great. And it was so cool. You need just a little day pack, like pack the things that you would need for your train trip. Just bring a little backpack or something like that. But like your luggage, the stuff that's like the stuff you have to load off and on and in and out and traipse up the hall and into the elevator and everything like that. You don't have to do that because it's right there. Your room is right there. And the staff at the hotels, they're so excited to see you. Like you walk in and they're like, Rocky Mountaineer, they know who you are. They know what you're bringing in, and they're so excited to do whatever they can. This is not like some like podunk little like experience where you've like been wined and dined on the train and then they put you in a hotel and you're like, oh my gosh, can't wait to get back on the train. No, it is perfect. It's awesome. Beautiful hotels, beautiful, just such a like an experience the whole time. So incredible.
Agree. And my clients have said the same thing. They're actually on a 9-day trip. So their circle route would have taken 9 days. Their rerouted or rebooked trip by Rocky Mountaineer is still taking their 9 days. So no flights had to be adjusted due to the wildfire. And their luggage shows up every single time to their room. And they said they've never touched their bags since they've gotten off the airplane. So top-notch service.
One disclaimer on that: this will spoil you. So the next trip, when you have to take your own luggage, it's like,
No.
but where is the person to take this for me? And
Yeah.
No, I was like looking for him in the Denver airport, and my husband's like, I'm that person. And I'm like, well, that's what you signed up for when we got married. You're that person. So
I know that well. I sympathize with your husband there, Katie. So, single travelers, there is no single supplement for the train. Now, there may be a single supplement for the hotels, depending on where you're going and all that. But to do Rocky Mountaineer, the train part of it, they will take single travelers with no ifs, ands, or buts. So again, if you want to travel alone and then meet your own new friends, you are more than welcome to.
And there is plenty of opportunities to get with people on the train and talk to them and experience things. There's so many conversations that you can. I know that sometimes it can be overwhelming to be like, I want to do this trip, but I'm doing it solo. This is not the way with the Rocky Mountaineer. You will have a whole group of people that are watching out for you, and then new friends on the train.
Okay, so now that we've talked for about an hour about Rocky Mountaineer, let's talk about some of the routes. So in the US, they have the Rockies to Red Rocks, or it can be Red Rocks to the Rockies, although they don't change the name for it. That all of these routes do go in both directions. So it's an out and back type thing. So you can ride it on one direction, you can ride in the other direction, or as was mentioned, you can do what's called a circle route, and you can do the entire thing and go out and back. And with Amy's clients, since it's a longer trip, it's actually several different routes that they are combining together. So again, typically around 2 to 3 days, but you can make it longer if you want to extend, which is really nice. So we're going to go from the Denver to Glenwood Springs to Moab direction for this. Day one, you leave Denver, go through the Rockies, then you go through the Moffat Tunnel, which is 6.3 miles long. 6.3 miles long.
You can totally take a nap because if you close your eyes, you're going to have the same view no matter what. It's so cool though. Like it's really cool. And they talk about the reason why the tunnel's there and everything like that. And it's really kind of a relaxing like time in the train. There's just not in that little section. Like it's a great time to like, cause you're going to need fresh eyes for the things you're going to see next. So it's not a bad thing to take a little snooze.
And going at the speed they go at, that you're going through this tunnel for a good 10, 15 minutes. So, at 30 miles an hour, unless you're like most people driving through a tunnel, especially in Pittsburgh, tunnel's coming up, you got to slow down. So you will pass the Continental Divide, see the Colorado River, and then you will arrive in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, later in the day.
So Matt, can I jump in here? So this is going to be a little story for our little travelers. So on the Colorado River, this is what happens on the Rocky Mountaineer on the Colorado River. And it might be a spoiler, so skip ahead if you don't want to know. So the rafters, they get on the Rocky Mountaineer, or they get on the river, and they moon the train. So they drop their pants as the train passes by. All of these whitewater rafters, all of the rafters that are on the Colorado River, they show you their backsides. And it is like the most butts I have ever seen. And I've done some spring breaks, some places. So just know.
Are you saying it's like the Jungle Cruise, but not the backside of water, but the backside of rafters?
That's right. It's the backside of Colorado. It is so funny. I have never laughed so hard in my life because there were like young guys and like old men and everything else, and like so much action from the windows of a crystal clear train. So just know that it's so super fun. Like it is like one of those things that like you're like, oh my gosh, did I? And then the train hosts are like, you did, and that's how they greet you in Colorado. So there's a little bit of adventure in your little step that you like close your eyes in the tunnel, but you'll want to have your eyes wide. If you don't have your eyes wide open by the time you hit the Colorado River, you will have them by the time you see the sights.
And a return greeting in kind is not recommended.
No, because then they've got to get the smudges off the windows, and they don't want to do that.
Exactly. So, day 2 of the trip, you're going to depart Glenwood Springs. You go through Ruby Canyon, past Mount Garfield. Watch out for Odie getting kicked off the table. Oh, no, sorry, different Garfield. And then you arrive in Moab in the evening.
Moab is incredible. So for sure, if you're going to go into Moab or you're coming out of Moab on the Rocky Mountaineer, you're going to want to add those extra little things on it. Moab used to be kind of like one of those little towns that was forgotten. Like you've got the arches and it's incredible and just so beautiful in Moab. But they didn't really have the class of service that would make you want to stay there. Like if you were an outdoors person, a hiker, a person that doesn't mind camping, things like that, that was your options. Or some of those hotels that aren't necessarily like somewhere that you would want to stay. They have really upped their game. Moab has some incredible hotels. One of the hotels that Rocky Mountaineer puts you up in is the Hoodoo. It is one of the most gorgeous hotels. Sits on there. You can see the Red Rocks. Has this gorgeous pool. Really top-notch service. So Moab is definitely a place that you are going to want a couple of days in, and we can help you do that. There's Jeep tours. It's just really, really, really incredible. Something that is completely worthy of sharing with your friends, your family, pictures that will take your breath away. I have a picture on that I use on lots of my social media posts that it's not filtered at all. The sky is the bluest of blue, that deep, beautiful, almost navy color, and then you've got the red rocks, and it is so gorgeous. Oh, it's so pretty. So you'll want to make sure for sure that if you're doing, and I'm sure Amy, with Banff and all of those places too, there's these extra little add-ons that make the trip what would be already an exceptionally amazing trip just a little step above. And Rocky Mountaineer and us as advisors can help you like put the pieces all together.
Yes. The glacier tour was one. I know they did rode the gondola in Banff so they could go up the mountainside, have lunch at the top, and then come back down. So yes, lots of things to do in those small towns.
And before we get to the additions, just the inclusions. So you get breakfast, 3-course regionally inspired lunch, which Amy read part of that for the Canada trip. You get dinner, and then, as we mentioned before, you get stories about the region. And with the additions for the Rockies to the Red Rocks, you can go to Salt Lake City, Utah. From Moab, you can go on to Bryce Canyon and then to Las Vegas. You can make a stop at Grand Junction. You can extra nights in Moab or Denver. Moab is very near Canyonlands and Arches National Parks. So again, Katie's was gushing about all the national parks that are in Utah. Other excursions, as we mentioned, again, the reverse direction, the circle journeys. And one note though, if you are adding rail travel and that the Rocky Mountaineer will be part of a longer journey, do the other train travel first and save Rocky Mountaineer for the end. You want to end with the luxury journey. And this goes for all the routes. There's was it the Canadian that can take you from like Toronto across the rest of Canada, and other travel in the US out west, that you want to do those other trips first and end with the Rocky Mountaineer. Otherwise, like I said, it's gonna be a step down. You want to end with a bang.
So the seats on the Rocky Mountaineer are not like your typical like train seats. We did Amtrak on our Alaskan cruise from Seattle to Vancouver, and so I got like a very good like compare and contrast. And the seats on Rocky Mountaineer are so comfortable. They're just really, really luxurious. You feel really comfortable in your seat. And that's not to say that the Amtrak train isn't okay. It's completely adequate. But this on Rocky Mountaineer, you're paying that price tag because of what you're experiencing, because of the food, because of the accommodations, because of the actual like sitting in your seat and being able to move and being able to stretch out. And I mean, it was really, really comfortable the whole time.
So let's go on and talk about some of the Canadian trips that you can do. And the first passage to the west is one of them. They will take you from Banff to Kamloops to Vancouver. In day one, you leave Banff, which is in Alberta. You go through past Castle Mountain, which is compared to like a medieval castle. Just the shape of it. You go through the Shuswap region, which has a bunch of lakes, and then you get to Kamloops, which is in British Columbia. Day two departs Kamloops, goes through Hell's Gate, past the Fraser River, the Coast Mountains, the Fraser Valley, and then you get to Vancouver, which is where the Rocky Mountaineer station is. Again, you get gourmet lunch, 3-course regionally inspired lunch, the breakfast, the stories, the history of the railway, different landmarks as you're passing it. So if just having the amazing scenery to look at wasn't enough, again, you have something to listen to as well. So additions for this is, as Amy mentioned, Lake Louise, which is in Alberta, Jasper, Calgary. In BC, you can go to Whistler, again, enunciation, right? And is it Kesnell?
That's no.
You can get extra days in either Banff or Vancouver. And again, reverse direction or circle journeys.
Right.
So,
Now, as far as the Jasper Fire, I don't know for next year what the routes will be. And my clients are on the train now and they were asking, and the Rocky Mountaineer staff does not know yet if that Jasper area will be open next year.
other journey in Canada is the Journey Through the Clouds, which goes Vancouver to Kamloops into Jasper. So day one, you're going to leave Vancouver, past the Fraser River and the Fraser Valley, go through a desert. So Canadian deserts, who knew? And then you'll arrive in Kamloops. Second day is Kamloops through the Clearwater region to the North Thompson River, the Blue River, the Pyramid Falls, which this is really neat. And if you have not seen this and don't know what this looks like, I highly recommend that you Google this. That there's a waterfall on the left and a cascade on the right and above the falls. And it's a total of like 300 feet. So it's this really neat thing of a straight waterfall with the cascades over the rocks. And it's the just the look of it. Again, Pyramid Falls is what it looks like. There's just this pyramid of water coming down it. It's just so amazing and so neat to see that it's like, thank you, Mother Nature. This is really neat. Now I have a cool new photo op. You also go past Mount Robson, which is the tallest peak in the Canadian Rockies, and then you arrive in Jasper. So again, you get the amazing food and everything. And additions, you can go to Banff, Calgary, extra days in Vancouver or Jasper. And again, going in either direction or adding that into the circle journeys. And then, is this the last ones? There are 3 Canadian
Yes.
ones. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
That this one is the Rainforest to Gold Rush, which takes you from Vancouver to Whistler to Kesnell to Jasper. And this is the biggest terrain difference of the routes, that you're going from the coastal mountains into the desert and then into the Rockies. So you really get a lot of different geography here. That day one, again, leaving Vancouver, if that's the direction you're going in, you're going to leave the North Vancouver station. So there are 2 different stations you can go out of. It's the Horseshoe Bay is what you're going to pass first, then the Fjords of Howe Sound. You're going to go through Squamish, the coastal mountains. Go past the Chief, arrive in Whistler at the Pemberton station. And then you can even try the Peak to Peak Gondola, which is Whistler Mountains Roundhouse Lodge and Blackcomb Mountains Rendezvous Lodge, which is the longest free span between towers on a gondola until 2017 that it got surpassed, but it's 1.88 miles. And do you know what the longest one is? I want to say it's in Switzerland that they have a really long gondola. I think it's like a total of 3 miles, and at one point it's like 2 miles between support structures.
If you're putting me on a gondola for that long, you're going to have to give me snacks.
I'm Googling right now. Serbia.
In Serbia, okay. I know there's a really long one in Switzerland as well.
Longest panoramic gondola lift, 9 kilometers long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 25-minute ride.
Double snacks.
And remember, if you're going one way, you're probably going to go the other way. So you might need quadruple snacks for that one, Katie, to make sure you're well stocked
Yeah,
in
I
both
learned
directions.
my lesson about the bridges in Vancouver, and that if you go across it, if you're brave enough to go across the suspension bridge, it's debatable whether I was brave enough or not, that you actually have to go back. And going back, you might be a little bit more crazy than going forward. So, but enough about me.
Now, the highest one, Matt, is the one that you just mentioned, the peak-to-peak gondola.
Okay.
It's the only one in the world that connects two mountain peaks.
Yeah, most of them use it to go up or down a mountain.
Yeah, don't know about
So
that.
you can imagine the views from up there.
Yeah.
Oh, there are a few. I think again, it's in Switzerland where you can actually ride on top of the gondola. So if you need some fresh air, or Katie has that look. I don't know.
I do gondolas are something here in Utah, like for skiing and stuff like that. And nope, no thanks. I'm good. But I'd love to make it. I'd love to make your dreams come true. If you want to go on a gondola, get with me. I can go ahead and make your trip dreams come true because your dreams
Yes,
might not necessarily be my dreams.
that's right.
Some people are afraid of heights. I'm terrified of heights. So
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. You all didn't. I didn't give you my copay, so no therapy sessions tonight.
So day 2 of this trip, you will depart Whistler. Whether or not you did the peak to peak gondola, that's up to you. You'll go through the Fraser River Valley, through the desert, and then gold flecked canyons. You'll see lakes. You'll arrive in Kesnel, and you can try the Fraser River Footbridge, which I know Katie's going to have. You're gonna have to get in line behind Katie for this one, right?
Yeah, you probably want to be in behind me because if you're in front, I'm trying to push you out of the way to get across it.
And then day 3, you will depart Kesnel. You'll go past Mount Robson, and you'll arrive in Jasper. So you see, as you're hearing some of these same places you're passing, but you're going different routes. You're making different stops. You're gonna have different highlights along the way and different focus on these journeys.
That's the thing with these like train trips, they're fluid, right? So something that you might have seen, like there was a black bear with her babies like a week before we went on the trip that we went on, but that we didn't see that, but we saw like a huge eagle and like several other things so it's all fluid. You can't plan on everything being the same, but you can plan on the fact that you're going to see something phenomenal no matter what route you take.
And again, with this, you can add days in Jasper or Banff, and again, reverse directions and circle journeys. So, Amy, what was the route that your clients are taking? You've mentioned a few things.
Yes, so they are, scroll back up for me for a minute because they are rerouted. So they're not on the circle journey through Jasper. Keep going. They are on, it's way up top. We talked about it first.
There we go. So the first passage to the west.
First passage to the west. But basically what they did was they went from Vancouver over to Banff, motor coached to through Kamloops to Banff, motor coached to Lake Louise, motor coached back down to Banff for 2 more days, and then they're currently headed back from Kamloops into Vancouver.
So they're doing like an out and back on it.
Out and back, yeah.
With a side journey with the motor coach.
Right. So yes, side journey with the motor coach and with the glacier tour and the glacier walk.
Now, having flown over the Rocky Mountains a couple times, going out to the West Coast and things, seeing them from that perspective, and then having driven through some like the Sierra Nevada, going like in the Yosemite and things, those mountains, it's so gorgeous that's the one thing that you do not get, that you'll get on a train that you do not get with driving, is whenever you drive, you can't always do the sightseeing because otherwise you might end up off the road. So please pull over if you're going to do some gawking or have someone else drive. But with the train, you don't have to worry about any of that. And as was mentioned, you have better views that you can look up without having to, lean against the car window or stick your head out the window as you're driving along. and you have the crystal clear windows, so you don't have to worry about, cleaning the smudges of your cheek off the car window again, or your nose, that type of thing.
Right.
So when we went on our Alaskan cruise this summer, we ported out of Vancouver, and we met up with the group that was traveling out of Vancouver to on Rocky Mountaineer. So the fact that you can go ahead and couple these together, so you could do this amazing Alaskan cruise, see all of the things, see all of the amazing sights, be able to talk about everything that blew you away in on this Alaskan cruise, and then you couple it with this train trip, right? So you couple it with luxury on the cruise ship, and then you get on the Rocky Mountaineer. That is like the pinnacle of like an amazing experience. You get to see Alaska, you get to see Canada, you get to see things that people dream about. And it's easy to couple together with an experienced travel advisor that can be like, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and I'm going to make it so that it just flows easily for you, and you get to experience this once in a lifetime trip. I don't think
Yes.
that Rocky Mountaineer gets enough credit. I think of if you talk about Rocky Mountaineer, if you mention it, some people don't know about it, and like that's the purpose of this tonight. That's the purpose of this podcast is that we want you to know about this, because it is one of those once in a lifetime that you're going to get on the train, and then people are going to start talking to you, and you're going to be like, so have you ever been on Rocky Mountaineer? And they're like, this is my 6th trip, because it is that good. It is that good. It is that spectacular. And you want to do this. This is something that you want to do. You don't have to be a train geek. If you are a train geek, then you're going to be so excited. But even if you're not, even if you just want to see these sites, see the Rocky Mountains, see Canada in ways that you would never have dreamed about, this is the way to do it.
Agreed. And Katie, I think what I'd like to say too is you've been on the train. I've booked this vacation, but at Dreams by Design Travel, we're such a team that I can't tell the listeners how often you and I have messaged back and forth about these train vacations and booking through Rocky Mountaineer and things I might need to look for. And not just that, but the trainings that our owner, Donna Sherrick, provides for us at Dreams by Design Travel, so that we are in touch with the business development managers and the regional support that we might need up in those areas of Canada. So the training I had was priceless in order to be able to contact exactly the right person that I needed to contact for my clients' needs. So I don't know if we're going to move into travel tips or not, Matt, but I'm going to go ahead and jump in with mine. My travel tip for this kind of trip is to use a travel advisor who has a good, strong background and team for planning some kind of vacation like this, because otherwise you might miss out along the way on some of the things that could be booked for you and put in place for you.
And what you just said there about having a team that is with our company, that we have our message boards, and it's all the time, every day. It's, hey, I have a client doing this. What's the best place to eat here? And okay, I know I've eaten here and here. Has anyone ever tried this place? Because they're interested in trying it. And just okay, I know Walt Disney World, great. I've only been to Walt Disney World or Disneyland a few times. Those who go there more often, hey, what about this question of here? And can I combine this with that? And it's, we have just such a great team that it's, there's no competition between us for getting business. It's we're there to help and support each other, and we cheer each other on all the time. And like you said, we consult with each other all the time of asking questions and getting ideas and what was your experience like and what would you recommend. And it's, I cannot speak highly enough of everyone that we work with as working together and helping each other.
Yes, I agree. Second travel tip, this is just a personal one. If you are going to take a train vacation and there's any kind of dining option available, buy it. Go ahead and take that plunge and experience that, because we did that in Colorado just on a day train travel trip, and it was so worth it to be able to sit and talk and meet people and have a meal and fellowship and be able to just make new friends while you're taking in the environment and the scenery.
And to highlight something you said before about having access to the business development managers, the BDMs, that they're the specialists with the company that provide us with extra resources. And we're on a first name basis with Sarah. We have direct contact to her. That we've met with her doing some trainings and whatever else that you mentioned, and they give us some insider stuff, other their tips, their preferences, and it's again, we have the resources to design the trip that is going to be perfect for you.
Right.
So excellent tips there, Amy. Katie?
So I have a few tips tonight. So one of my tips is that if you have a challenge, so like Amy was talking about, like mobility challenges, we also had a couple on our train that it was a mother and her daughter and her son, and they were the son and the daughter were talking about some of her mom's struggles and things like that, and Rocky Mountaineer did such a good job of taking care of him, but also the fact that they were prepared to go and they had all of these things that they knew beforehand made it so much more of an enjoyable experience. So your challenges might seem big, and that's not to dismiss them, but please talk to us about them. Please do not be ashamed of the things that you are worried about. We are there to help you. We want your experience to be phenomenal. And a lot of the times, your challenges that seem so big, if you have somebody like us, a trusted travel advisor on your side, we can go ahead and mitigate those. We can make them smaller. We can't take away the stress of every day, but we can make that trip so phenomenal that you won't worry about it. Like, we want you to feel comfortable no matter where you're at in life, and whether you're traveling with a newborn or you're traveling with your dad that's in his 80s, we want you to be able to have those experiences, and we want to make it as stress free as possible. And then my other tip is that this is Rocky Mountaineer. I could gush about it. We did this a year ago, and I still think about it. I still am like, we did that. My husband and I did it, and it was so wonderful. It was like the best little romantic little trip that wasn't too long, wasn't too short, but it gave us a chance to talk to each other. Gave us a chance to actually sit down and to tell the stories and like ask each other something more than like, hey, did you take the garbage out? Or what's for dinner? It was so great. We were able to sit and had that dedicated time to each other to kind of check back in and remember the reasons why we're still together, and remember the stories. And I found out things about my husband on that trip that I didn't know, and we told stories about growing up and everything like that, because we had that quiet, just relaxing, slow journey through phenomenal sights. So sometimes a trip that is just chill and relaxing. I'm a goer. I love to go. But this was a trip.
I second that, because I chased her all over Walt Disney World 2 weeks ago. Holy moly.
I did 4 parks in one day. But I'm a goer, and sometimes I forget to stop. And this is a trip that forces you to stop and take it all in. So no matter what kind of trip you want to book, no matter what kind of experience you want to have, we can make that happen. And we listen to you, and you're important to us. Your memories matter. Your experience matters. You are important to us.
And I would even say it doesn't force you to stop. It allows you to stop.
It gives you the privilege to stop.
Yes.
Right? And that is a privilege. The privilege to stop, not forced, but the privilege.
Love it.
And to echo what Katie said before of, again, if you have any preferences or needs, to let your travel advisor know, because then we can either directly direct you to the best option for your trip, or again, we can handle it and let you say, hey, that's not a big deal. We can do that stuff all the time, where this company does that very well. And so, Amy and I, or Katie and I have talked about, the traveling with food issues and things like that on another earlier episode of the podcast. And it's those things that it's like, okay, some things that even your travel advisor might fully relate to and understand of, oh yeah, well, hey, I had, you know, total of 4 knee surgeries, so getting around can be an issue. Or yeah, I went with my dad here on this and he has this. Or hey, I just dealt with a client or just worked with a client who had something similar, so we can work with that. It's not necessarily going to be a burden for us. That's why we're here. We want to get your information so that we can then find the best options for you and help to take care of all those things for you.
None of your needs are a hassle for us.
It's just something else that we would like to know to help make things that much better. So my tip is that train travel is very underutilized in the United States and Canada to an extent, but it's used all over Europe and in other parts of the world. So 750 million Europeans can't be wrong, can they, with the train travel thing? That it is a great experience. And you get more mobility than being in a car because you can go to places that do not have roads. It's a lot better scenery than you get with a plane because you're looking up at these mountains, not down at them, and you can get a whole lot closer. And even if you don't take the Rocky Mountaineer, look for a scenic train near you. We've done the new Tiger Flyer in Elkins, West Virginia a couple times. It's about an hour and a half south of here. We've gone on, a couple times with my dad and my nieces and nephews, my little girl, and even my uncle, who is a huge, huge train buff. That he has a big display of miniature trains in his basement, and him and my aunt did a train trip out west several years ago, and I've talked about it on here before that whenever I was in college, my sister and I got to go to Europe to see my brother-in-law who was over there as an exchange student studying. And we took trains all throughout Germany and we took it through Belgium into France, into Paris. And just that whole experience of that was one of the highlights of, again, it was more transportation then, but still being on those trains was an enjoyable experience that we got, my sister and my brother-in-law, we got to spend time together. As Amy and Katie mentioned, that it's time to can reconnect with your loved ones when you have nothing else to do but look out the window at gorgeous scenery and talk. So, if you have a destination or an experience that you'd like to have us discuss on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, or if you'd like to share your favorite destination or have a travel tip, please let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback and ideas. If you are already working with a Dreams by Design travel advisor, please continue to work with him or her. Otherwise, Amy, how can people get a hold of you?
Social media, of course, facebook.com dbdamy, or my email, amye@dreamsbydesigntravel.com. Most of my clients reach out via email, and then we start our conversation there.
Katie, what about you?
So my Facebook is Dreams by Design Travel with Katie. My Instagram is Katie Dreams by Design Travel. And then my email is katie@dreamsbydesigntravel.com.
For me, my social media, I'm at Matt with DBD on Facebook, X, and Instagram. My email is matt, M-A-T-T, @dreamsbydesigntravel.com. The website for our company is dreamsbydesigntravel.com. All this information is in the show description. So if you'd like to contact us to book a trip, or if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of us. You don't have to memorize this or write it down right now. You can look it up. Don't have to worry about spelling since it'll all be right there. Please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend. If you like what you heard, we'd love to get the word out about our podcast and spread the joy that we're hopefully creating here. I had a good time tonight.
Me too. Thanks for
Thank you, Matt.
So yeah, Katie, thank you again. It's always wonderful to have you with us. Amy, it was great to have you here for the first time. Hopefully it's not the last time. We'd love to have you back. We'll find something we can talk about.
Sounds great.
So please join us next time. We're heading out in that. We'll see you later.